weren't on the actual podcast Friday, you still got a chance to do your Nashville recap, which you can save for next Friday on the podcast. But I'm sure it helped cure what went on this weekend. Yeah, how's everybody feeling this weekend as this thing's fired up? I'm guessing what? Optimistic, rational, calm, feeling great about the Mariners World Series odds, something like that.
Yeah, I'd say that sums it up. That sums
Mm-hmm.
it up. No irrational roster decisions to be made. Does seem like Jorge Polanco will be back this week, though, so that'll be interesting. We can talk about that. I think that'll be a good discussion. But now that we have both the YouTube and the Instagram fired up, welcome back, everybody. Marine Lair Podcast, Sunday Night Live, every single Sunday, 7 o'clock Pacific. And for the first time, Lyle, 9 o'clock Central Time, for those of you like me who are currently in the Central Time Zone. We're live on both YouTube and Instagram. Feel free to shoot us whatever question you want. We'll do our best to answer as many of them as we can over the course of the next hour. If you really want us to answer your question, head on over to the YouTube stream, send us a super chat. We'll be sure to get to your question. You'll be next in queue if you go do that. And Lau and I will really appreciate it if you guys go do that. So again, thanks again. Make sure to follow us on all of our socials at Marine Layer Pod, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. Find us everywhere, posting content every single day. And even when the Mariners have a bad week and lose a series to a pretty bad team in the Miami Marlins this weekend, we're still here, Lyle. We are still here.
Mm-hmm. We're here. We're here to answer everybody's questions because I know people have them. I'm going to guess people are going to flood in with trade deadline questions because it's not just our fan base or our listeners that have those questions. It seems to be all Mariners fans that have those questions. That seems to be the talk of the town. It's been that way for the last few weeks. It's probably going to continue to be that way because all people want to know is who are we going to go at? But if you have other questions, feel free to send those too. Somebody just said Toro with an exclamation point in the Instagram comments. You know, I couldn't agree more. Did you see
I'm
that
not liking
jersey?
this bit. I think this has gotten uncomfortable for me, Lyle. That's what I
Has it?
think. I think there are too many people who are actually convincing themselves somehow this is a good idea.
Our buddy Adam says, Julio for Abe Toro, pull the trigger, Jerry, get the goat.
Okay. Well, you guys have fun with that. Let me know how it goes. I think there might be someone in the comments section over the course of the night who might be seriously considering that.
I mean,
So
you saw that jersey at the game today in Miami.
I did. Yeah, I did.
And that's
Yeah,
dedication.
we had sources on site doing some scouting, and well, they found what you wanted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they did.
Well, anyway, guys, send us your questions. We'll be sure to try and get to as many of them as possible on both the YouTube and the Instagram. It's good to talk to you guys again. Missed Friday's podcast episode. Internet connection here in Nashville, not the best at the old hotel, but at the new hotel, it's pretty fantastic. So we're here. We're rolling 9 o'clock on a Sunday. City doesn't sleep here, and neither do I here on this live stream. There's some people not too confident in the Mariners' ability to stay in first place. I think by July 1st, Ricardo on YouTube says might not be in first by the All-Star break. Well, the Mariners over this week went from a 10-game lead to a 6.5-game lead. I don't know if I'm buying that, though. You know why, Lyle? Do you know why? It's in the title of this live because the Mariners will play games at home between now and the break. And you know what I've come to the conclusion of? They're pretty damn good at home. On the road? At home? I think like just the Guardians have a better record right now.
And here's the other thing. I know people are getting worried because the Astros just had a good week. They won the series against the Orioles. Let's be real about who the Astros are this year. They're still under 500. They're still a ways out. Their pitching is ridiculously injured. This is not the same Astros team as teams in years past. Like Javier's out, Urquidy's out, Garcia's out, Lance McCullers is out, Justin Verlander's aging. Javier's out. Somebody who's the guy they just called up this week to make a start, and now he's out.
What's that? I don't know. You picked the wrong week to ask me that.
Okay, well, it wasn't like a blue chip prospect they called up, but they have so many pitching injuries. I don't know how in the world their pitching's going to hold up. I don't think it will. I think they had a good week. I don't think this is going to sustain all year. So Blas, that's who it was, Blas. Or yeah. So I don't think that's sustaining. I know the Astros had a good week, but they've still got a ton of ground to make up, and they're gonna need that rotation to actually stay intact all year, and so far it hasn't.
So let's get to a question here. We can just jump right into the trade questions, Lyle. This one is from Rusty, Rusty on Instagram, Rusty Farvier or something like that. Thank you, Rusty, for sending in this question. If you were to guesstimate, Lyle, what kind of prospect capital would a trade for Brent Rooker or Ryan McMahon cost to the Mariners?
I'm gonna guess McMahon would be less than Rooker. One, because
How much control
not
does he have?
more. I mean, so McMahon's on a pretty club friendly extension. Actually, does he have more control than Rooker? Let's look it up. He has a decent amount of control because he's signed a very team friendly extension with the Rockies. But I don't know if the Rockies are really going to trade him or not. I don't know what in the world the Rockies' plan is because the Rockies are not a well run franchise. They don't seem to have much direction. So would they really trade him? For the right price, probably. So McMahon's a free agent in 2028. So that's what, 3.5 years of control? That's actually
Yeah.
the same amount. That's the same amount as Rooker. So that'd be even. I would say McMahon will cost less. Again, he's not in division. He's not the player Rooker is. He's not the bat Rooker is, that's for sure. But it would still cost you probably a decent bit. I don't think you're losing Colt Emerson or Colleen Celestin for Ryan McMahon, but you'd have to give up a little bit.
You'd probably have to give up. Well, it would be at least one top 100. I would say there's always the asterisk of trading with the Rockies. They did the same group traded away Nolan Arenado and then paid the Cardinals $50 million to take him and took back essentially nothing for
Right.
a Hall of Fame third baseman. So these things are never, maybe never the right word is uniform with the Colorado Rockies. It could be
Uh-huh.
different. It could be
Right.
different. It could be less. Now, a trade for Brent Rooker in division, his his uh his value right now is probably as high as it will ever be.
Mhm.
So that would probably be a little bit more. If for a realistic value wise trade for Brent Rooker would cost at least two top 100 prospects, maybe more because it's the A's and the A's wouldn't necessarily want to trade him in division. And it's like, well, if you really want him, you're going to have to overpay for him. If you want to be the ones to get Brent Rooker, whose services will be wanted elsewhere too, the Mariners aren't the only team that need offense coming up here at the deadline. Everyone in today's version of Major League Baseball could use some more offense. So the Mariners would probably have to pay the highest price of anybody, like
Yeah.
in the division. I would guess, yeah, that sounds right. Of anyone in the division, so because of them being in the division, and they'd be the most likely to buy that kind of player in the division, the Mariners would probably have the highest price for Brent Rooker in baseball. They had to pay for him.
Probably. I listened to Ryan Divish talk on Jason Puckett's show this week, and he was saying back when the fire sale happened for the A's, the Mariners really wanted Matt Chapman, and they offered what was a really hefty package. It was a similar package to what the Luis Castillo deal ended up being. Like Noel V. Marte was in the trade. I think Edwin Arroyo was in the trade. Brandon Williamson was in the trade. I mean, Williamson obviously went for Winker and Gino, but they wanted him and they offered a big package for him, but they said no. They didn't. I guess they didn't want to trade him in division. They took a lesser package from the Braves, to be honest with you. So yeah, it would probably cost a lot to go get Rooker, but yeah. I should probably read this one and then we can move on, but I don't know if he's gonna stop spamming us if we don't read it. One of our buddies in the Instagram comments, Josh says, "You guys are cooked if you don't trade for Chris Taylor," which I don't know if Mariners fans are paying attention these days. Has anybody seen the year Chris Taylor's had? This dude's got like a 25 WRC plus.
Yeah, it's fallen from fairy tale to yet maybe now finally the trade of Zach Lee for Chris Taylor is evened out.
Yeah,
Finally.
maybe. Well, because the Dodgers paid him all that money, and now he's really not hitting. I don't know if they're gonna be forced to bite the bullet and DFA him and have to eat all that money, but yeah, he's got like a -1 WAR. He's got about a 25 WRC plus. It's been nightmares for Chris Taylor this year.
Yeah. So there's a couple comments here on Instagram saying Rooker is not the answer. Rooker's not saving the Mariners offense. And those comments are right. Like reiterate the point here about the state of the Mariners offense. The Mariners, regardless of what happens between now and the end of July when they need to make a trade, Like they need to trade for a bat. They probably need to trade for multiple bats. But the Mariners offense will not be good unless the guys on the current roster consistently hit. Like
Right.
that's what brings the offense to an average to an above average group is the guys they already have under contract, which will be making up probably in a best case scenario 7 of the other 9 spots in the lineup. Yeah, they all need to hit too. Like the examples all over the place. Mitch Haniger has really struggled. Cal Raleigh has really struggled. Julio has had a good month overall,
Mhm.
but still the inconsistencies are there.
He's coming,
Um,
I would say he's coming back down to earth. He entered today with a 112 WRC plus. He just had another bad day at the plate today. It hasn't been a great month again all of a sudden.
it started good. Well, okay, but it unfortunately seems like it's corrected itself a little bit and gone in the other direction. And JP Crawford too has had some struggles over the last week. Again, it's not like Josh Rojas hasn't hit since April consistently. Demo's been up and down. Like those guys need to hit. The offense wants
Mhm.
to be good.
Right.
Not Brent Rooker.
Yeah.
Not even Kyle Tucker. Kyle Tucker comes to the Mariners and the rest of the guys around him don't hit. I mean, it's going to be a Lamborghini surrounded by a bunch of Toyota Camrys.
It's gonna be the meme of the Lambo parked at the broken down house. Yes.
Right. Correct.
And let me let me make an amendment on what I said earlier. Remember how I was just saying how the Mariners tried to trade for Matt Chapman, the A's wouldn't do it, and which was an in division trade. Totally disregard that about Kyle Tucker because they're trading for him. So,
Mm. Uh, yes. Whatever it takes.
correct. Mariners and Astros have made trades. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, they have. Kendall Graveman will endorse that deal.
Yeah, sure. Yes, he will. Let's see. Let's see what else we got, either on YouTube or on Instagram. Somebody's asking about Rafael Devers again. So we talked about this on the last live stream. Look, guys, there's no bad questions on here. We want to answer all your questions. Love the idea. Love the enthusiasm. You know, this podcast, me, myself, especially, am a dreamer. So we love the idea. But the Red Sox are in the race, and he is on a massive contract, Rafael Devers. I don't think the Red Sox are even thinking about the idea of shipping him away. So I like the idea. I don't think it's happening, unfortunately.
Also, the Mariners won't even give out a $300 million contract right now. So why would they take another team's $300+ million contract and give up prospects?
Right. No, they won't.
No,
Probably.
they won't. But hey, if Rafi wants to come for free, we'll take him.
Sure. For a bucket of baseballs.
Yeah, a bucket of baseballs, some double bubble.
You have to
I think
you
that
have to
gets the job done.
you have to stock my soda machine in the clubhouse for 3 years, the old Billy Bean thing from Moneyball. So,
Why don't we send the Red Sox? So when they're in the lane of Dunkin' Donuts, we'll send them some Starbucks gift cards too. Balance it out a little bit.
oh,
Yeah.
I'm not buying Starbucks gift cards.
Well,
You
I
kidding?
never said you had to pull out your own wallet and buy them. I said the Mariners do.
Uh,
They have quite a big sponsorship package with Starbucks.
yeah,
They're
it's
in the
sad.
outfield. They could trade some gift cards,
Yeah,
few
that's
hundred
sad.
dollars worth. How about we
Well,
see a few $1,000s worth? I think that'll even out. Then we get
oh,
some Dunkin' Donuts.
that's still sad
How about
because we're
this?
still
How about this? So in the Rafael Devers trade package, the Red Sox, along with Devers, they send over a Dunkin' Donuts as well to the Seattle area.
sure. Whatever it takes to put Starbucks semi out of business,
Well,
even though they're never ever going out of business. So, yeah.
well, I like the idea of a Dunkin' Donuts. So if that's what it takes, we'll give them a few Starbucks locations back.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Should we should we talk about Polanco for a minute here cuz he's about to be back.
Yeah, what are they doing with this roster?
Um I'm trying to think. Like somebody asked, my brother asked actually on YouTube. He's like, if when Polo's activated, what do they do with the roster spot? Is there a chance it's Mitch? He means Mitch Haniger. I'm gonna right now, this second, I would lean toward no because Tyler Locklear needs more playing time. I want Tyler Locklear to be great. I think he can be a great big league first baseman, but the way he's being used on the roster right now isn't beneficial for anybody because he's not playing. He hasn't played essentially at all this week. So if that's the case, let him get a bunch of at-bats in AAA. He hasn't had much time in AAA. It's been about 10 games to be exact. Let him have more development time. Let him go crush it in Tacoma, and then he can come back whenever they need him. For the Jorge Polanco roster move, that's what makes sense. Now, what happens with Mitch Haniger? It sucks to say because he's such a fan favorite. He's loved here for very good reason. But if this goes on another month by the time the trade deadline rolls around, like they are going to have some decisions to make because he's got a 608 OPS right now.
Let me start with Locklear. It makes the most sense to send him down because he came up to take Ty France's spot, and Ty France is back.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, most of that playing time and most of those at-bats are gone. And Mitch Garver's also, again, this month been swinging it really well. So he needs spots at DH, and he's also got to be behind the plate and catch with Sebi no longer on the roster. So those at-bats, most of those auxiliary at-bats that Locklear was getting are gone. So it makes more sense to send him down to Tacoma and get him 200 at-bats down there. Get him at least 200 at-bats. And then make the decision later on in this year. If you still need an offensive jolt and he's got a 120 WRC plus in Tacoma, then you make something happen. You bring him back up. You find a way to get him on the roster and get that kind of production there. Because the Mariners need more consistent right-handed swinging production. They just don't have it. They don't have almost any of it. So that's one. And then Polanco too. First of all, nice to see him at very least at the AAA level. Hit a couple of home runs, hit the ball hard. He hit the hardest ball of his career today, right?
Was that the hardest one?
I think it was 112.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, that was the hardest hit ball of his career. Yeah, it's AAA. But we never got to see Polanco get a chance to turn it around because he was hurt.
Right. And
this is the opportunity now for Jorge Polanco to come back on this roster and earn his spot back. Essentially, he's going to get his playing time, but to earn the trust of the fans back, that's what it's going to be right now. So, I think the upside of this is good for both Locklear and for Jorge Polanco, and then give Ryan Bliss, who's swung the bat really well this month, an opportunity to stay on the roster, be the best athlete on the roster. He can run the bases, steals, plays solid defense, has swung a hot bat from the right side. Again, the right-handed production, man. Like, it's neat. Like, Ryan Bliss right now, like Garver's been, it's been essentially like Garver and Bliss, the consistent right-handed production in the last couple of weeks.
And Polanco's a switch hitter, so if he starts to hit from the right side, there's some. And let me just add too. I'm sure most of you know this, but when TJ says, "Oh, he's hitting in AAA right now," on his rehab assignment, like Jorge Polanco, in case you live under a rock, he was not optioned. He's on a rehab assignment right now in AAA. That's what he's doing.
Right. And Mitch, the reason he stays on the roster, like he's not producing offensively. He's near the bottom of all of baseball in terms of offensive production. He's not been good defensively, and he's aging. So he's not a great base runner anymore. And we know he's been injury prone. The problem is he's owed $16 million this year, and he has a $17.5 million player option next year. That, production aside, is the reason he's going to be on the roster. Now, it might not be forever, but for the time being,
are you talking about Polanco?
No, Mitch Haniger.
Oh, I don't think you said that. Okay,
Mitch Haniger. That's what he's owed this year and next year. Mm-hmm. So if there's a reason he's on the roster, even though his production does not reflect that, that's why.
Yeah. Again, like they will have decisions to make here. It's about, do you let him have more time to turn it around? Do you keep him around because he's owed a decent amount of money, or do you eat it? I don't know. Like there are real decisions to make here. I hope Mitch Haniger just starts to turn it around, but it's been a tough first few months for him. Unfortunately, he had that really good start, and then it's been some tough sailing.
Let's see what else we got here.
Yeah.
So Jay Prince, I think we talked a little bit about Lane Thomas last week, but Jay Prince on YouTube is pushing it in for Lane Thomas right now. So so Lane Thomas, I believe, is a impending free agent, right? I believe
year and a half.
Okay, so year and a half for Lane Thomas. Let me familiarize, because I'm not like, I know he's played well this year.
WAR isn't crazy high, but again, I mean, he's been about a 106 7 WRC plus hitter. So
Yeah.
he's been above average. And if honestly, if you were going to trade for Lane Thomas, if you're going to make a trade with the Nationals, I would try to make it a package deal. If you're going to go get Lane Thomas, go get one of their relievers too. Go either trade for Kyle Finnegan or Hunter Harvey because the Nationals are not in win mode. Probably, I know they're technically in the wild card race, but like this core isn't fully here yet. James Wood's not up yet. Dylan Cruz isn't there yet. Like this isn't the core. And Lane Thomas, I don't know if he's going to be a part of the long-term future or not. He is a free agent after next year. So if you're going to go trade for him, it's a nice idea. I wouldn't hate it. I just would also say go get another bullpen arm in that trade because the Nationals have two very good ones in Finnegan and Harvey.
I don't know if Lane Thomas is really someone you trade for to really impact this offense. Like he's got a 300 on base percentage right now. It's
Yeah,
not
he's a secondary piece.
it's not like I don't even know if he's a secondary piece right now. You have that on your roster right now already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You could sell it as the right-handed production, but we do say sometimes that if guys could just be league average, stuff would improve, which is the case in some positions, but depending on the package, like would a 100 WRC plus for Lane Thomas be worth more than someone already in your system?
yeah. I mean, maybe not.
It just that feels a little marginal. It feels like something you'd rather just go get a reliever at this point. But he
Sure.
could have a scorching, what is it, 5-6 weeks before the deadline, goes up to a 115, and then we're having a different discussion.
Okay, so if you're gonna make a trade with the Nationals, then go get Finnegan or Harvey. Go get the reliever.
Sure. It just in his career, it's not been amazing offensive production. 2021, 104 WRC plus. 2022, 97. Last year, 109. This year, 100. That's fine.
Yeah.
Definition of fine.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I'm laughing because I'm now seeing some people in the comments. Not, I mean, they're essentially doing my Kyle. No, not quite. I would say doing my Kyle Tucker thing. I'm seeing people talk about trading for Bryce Harper and Ranger Suarez. Which, listen, I also love to trade for Bryce Harper and Ranger Suarez. I think the Phillies would hang up the phone in less than 0.5 seconds.
Yeah, usually when you have the best record in baseball, trading your best players away, not the best course of action.
I'm down. I don't know if the Phillies are down. I'll put it like that.
Here's a question from Nate on Instagram. If Jorge Polanco can't figure it out by the trade deadline and Locklear is still raking in Tacoma, send Polanco down. Does he even have options? First of all, I don't think that would happen.
No, I don't
Personally.
think
Thank you for the question, Nate, but I don't think that would happen. First of all, your infield depth wouldn't be as great, and Locklear at that point still really wouldn't have a spot on the roster. Like none of what the current predicament is would really change.
right. Locklear's not a second baseman, so
No,
yeah,
no, and all credit to him, probably still can't learn to play second base. It's not the body type does not fit.
right. Yeah, no, that's probably true. Well, again, here's your guys' reminder. If you join late, this is our Sunday night live. We go live 7 p.m. every Sunday, Instagram and YouTube. Go check us out. If you're watching on Instagram, check out the YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, check out the Instagram. Send us a super chat question if you want your question guaranteed to be answered over on YouTube. And if you want to hear us keep talking trade deadline, we can do it. But again, we'll say it again. If you guys have other questions you want to ask, I'll answer those too. It's whatever you guys want. So you get creative, you send something fun, we'll probably answer it. But send whatever you want to have. Send whatever you want to have talked about. Somebody's asking, or somebody's just talking here about Houston again, and people are saying that we got to wake up because Houston's getting hot and Houston's always a problem. Sleep on them. Look, we know Houston has had as impeccable a track record the last 6, 7 years as any team in baseball, but there is a point when you're just too injured to really ever come out of it. And I'm not ever going to count them out, but I don't know how many teams can recover from all the pitching injuries in that rotation that they've had. It's just so many.
Yeah, like how are they going to look in August when
Right.
the dog days of the summer hit and everyone's tired and they're probably at that point odds are will be more injuries.
Right. So to that point, with the guys they have in the rotation, sure, Framber's Framber, right? But Hunter Brown, if he stays healthy, is gonna throw more innings than he's ever thrown. He's gonna hit the dog days of summer. Justin Verlander is getting pretty close to the point of retirement. Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. Another guy that's injured that we haven't even talked about. He had the neck strain. He's on the IL. So even if he comes back, he's gonna be in the dog days of summer when he's already injury prone. It's a lot to ask of a rotation that's already really depleted. I know Ronel Blanco's been great, and he may have a case to start the All-Star game. I know Framber's great, but there's there's only so much they can sustain.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree about that. So I'm going to pick a question out of thin air because Jay Prince again brought up a good idea on YouTube. And I've seen this thrown out here a little bit in terms of who the Mariners could trade for. I don't think we talked about this yet on this live stream. Like, there's some people talking about trading back for Ketel Marte. I feel like outside of a trade for Kyle Tucker, I don't know there would be a more expensive piece that the Mariners would go trade for than Ketel Marte. This dude, I only realized this recently this year when people were pushing his stats out there. He is doing everything, every single thing, offensively and defensively. It's pretty remarkable. And that means, like, even if the Diamondbacks thought it would be a good idea to trade for him or trade him away, which they are still in playoff contention as well, man, you would be giving up. You guys liked Cold Emerson and Felnine? Well, why would that like be the start?
I don't think you give up both of them, but you'd give up a lot. You'd probably have to give up one of them and then a whole lot of your other top 100 guys because you're right. Honestly, you can make an argument that Ketel is an even better fit than Kyle Tucker. I'm not gonna say that, but here's why you can make the argument. One, he has more control. He has 3.5 years of control. He's not a free agent until 2028. Tucker, as we sit right now, is a year and a half. Ketel plays the outfield, he plays second base, he switch hits, and he has had a monster season along with what's now a track record of consistency. So, yeah, he costs a lot. And like, look, I'm sure Jerry Dipoto and Justin Hollander would love to have him back for every reason we just outlined. Power, speed, versatility, switch hitter, club control. Yeah, that's a perfect fit. But that is going to cost a ton in a trade, a ton. And the fact that the Diamondbacks just made the World Series last year and they have a very young core with guys still coming up. I don't know if they're looking to trade away their best player at this at this point in time. Now, could they trade Paul Sewald? Sure. Paul Sewald's a mid-30s reliever the age-wise that has a half a year left on his deal. And if the Diamondbacks aren't gonna really compete for a postseason spot this year, then there's no reason to keep a closer that's pitching really well. That I agree with. But when you have a roster of look, I know it's been a tough go for Corbin Carroll in the first half so far. He is starting to heat up a little bit, which is nice for him. But when you have a core of Corbin Carroll and Gabby Moreno, I know Christian Walker is about to be a free agent, but those two, and you got Drew Jones coming, you got Jordan Lawler, on his way. Like you can mix in Alec Thomas there. They just spent a bunch of money on their rotation. They got Erod, they got Zach Gallen, they got Merrill Kelly. Like this is not the Rockies. This is not the Marlins. This is not even the Blue Jays. Like this is a very competitive organization right now. I know they're having a bit of a down year, but when you have 3.5 years of Ketel Marte and an organization that's very, very competitive, I don't know how in the world you'd get them to part with Ketel Marte.
Right. So, unfortunately, the conversation ends.
Like
Unfortunately.
I would be I look, I was not exactly the biggest Ketel Marte fan in the world when he got traded away because he had his struggles when he came up in the first year. Well, he got really hot when he first came up. 2016 was a struggle. And then when I saw they were getting Gene Segura, I was all fired up about it because Gene was so good the year before he was traded to Seattle. But look, I'd be over the moon if they traded for Ketel Marte, but I don't know how in the world you're gonna do it, and I don't know about gutting your whole farm for him.
So, question for the chat and for you, Lyle. Now that we have, God, how many years of time is that? 6, 7 years.
7, yeah.
7 years since that trade happened. Now that you have 7 years of information on that trade, would you have still done it?
Yeah. Yes. I still
I'm
say that
I'm
without
with you. I would have too.
and without hesitation. Here's why. Number 1, you have no guarantee. I mean, I'll just start with Ketel because we're already talking about him. You have no guarantee he would have ever turned into that here in Seattle. You just don't know. Number 2, you balance out the war of that trade with all the players combined. The Mariners are still like 7 or 8 wins better than the Diamondbacks from that trade because Taiwan Walker didn't give them a ton, and Ketel's been great. But when you factor in what Mitch has done, what Gene did, and then if you take Gene and add JP Crawford into the mix, because I think that's a fair part to include, Gene was flipped for JP Crawford. You might not have JP if you don't make that original trade. He factors into this too. And all that war combined is more than what Ketel and Taiwan Walker gave the Diamondbacks. So yes, I still make that trade.
Right. I'm with you. Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
Um, so let's see what
Now,
else we
I
got
am
here.
curious. I am curious what fans think about that though. I am curious, like, would you guys still have done that trade? Did you like the trade at the time? How do you feel about it now? Like, they tell us. What like we're not necessarily saying the two of us are absolutely right with that take. That's just our opinion, and that's just what we think. You may think something different, so tell us. Actually, I have I have a question here. This is a good one.
Mm,
Little bit off, not trade related, and I'm actually glad somebody brought it up because it's a little bit of a change of pace. They said Victor Labrada up. Now, I don't know exactly what the phrase of the question means. I'm guessing they're asking about when could he get moved up to double A. And this is an interesting topic because Victor Labrada has been in, first off, he's an interesting story, but he's been in high A with Everett a long time, and he's really, really figured it out this year. And he's still not that old. Like he's 23, 24 years old. He is crushing the baseball right now. He's been far and away their best hitter. He's been one of the best hitters in the entire Northwest League. I would have to think it's coming because he's been there a long time. It's almost halfway through the season, and he's crushing it. I would think he's going to double A here sooner rather than later.
it would make sense because he's 24 years old. And
Mhm.
24 fits a lot better in Double A than it does in Everett. Like he's playing against guys right now that are he's 5 years older than. So at some point, you, you do have to go up. But remember, with all these promotions, there needs to be moves on other rosters as well because there's not right now an open spot on Arkansas for him to go.
Well, I would say this. I mean, technically, sure, but Spencer Packard just got moved up to Triple A just like recently. So if you're looking for playing time, they did just lose an everyday outfielder.
Right. So yeah. So in theory, yeah, based on if he's taking Spencer Packard's spot, then yeah. But there's also now someone currently in Spencer Packard's spot,
Right.
and there would need to be some organizational shuffling to make that work. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear right now Victor Labrada is too good for high A.
Mhm.
So
So I
it
think it'll happen here soon, which shout out to him. Again, it took him a while for him to figure it out. He has spent parts of 4 different seasons in Everett now. And for example, last year it was a struggle for him. He had a 622 OPS for the year last year. He also only played like 54 games because he was injured part of the year. But he's killing it now. I hope he gets a shot in double A. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. So that'd be good for him. Yeah, that'd be good for him. And it's they're like smaller sample size, but we talked about Michael Morales, for example, a couple weeks ago on the podcast. I highlighted him in our on the farm segment, but he had pitched his full last year, full 2023 season in Modesto and sucked. ERA well over 5, was struggling. But this year he's got a sub 2.5 ERA at
Mhm.
the same level. Like sometimes it doesn't always work out, even if you're a high draft pick, or in Victor Labrada's case, he was an international signing, I believe.
Mhm.
Um, right? Was he?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he was. So it's not always going to work out the first time you're there. Like different organization, but Jack Leiter, for example, dude was supposed to be a phenom, but comes in and struggles. So it's not the same path for everybody. It's cool to see Victor at age 24. He's going to get his shot in Arkansas in this year, and that's really cool here.
Yeah.
Um, Let's see what else we got here. Question from Gmo underscore 44. What about Logan Evans for bullpen help? Him and Santos can come back. It'd be a huge boost. And when Game comes back as a lefty. Yeah, it was good. First of all, I want to give Gregory Santos a shout out. Talk about persevering. This dude has had such a tedious comeback from injury this year. I mean, things that you can't really control, like a lat when you're throwing, and just having to slowly build it back up to the point now where he threw a live BP in Miami this week. And excited to watch him when he comes back. Logan Evans will be in the big leagues probably sometime in the next month. Don't know exactly when. He's going to need more outings. He's going to need still adjusting as a bullpen guy, but he's still been pretty good as a bullpen guy down in Arkansas, which is good. And then we're always rooting for Gabe to come back. So like it would be a massive, massive upgrade to have those guys in the bullpen right now. Even just to tout our guy Gabe when he like we're talking about like a high leverage lefty reliever when he's at his best, which didn't get to see for the last month before he got hurt. But now hopefully he's a little bit more rested, he's healthy, and he's ready to go back and dominate. And then you add the two nasty right-handers, changes a lot. I mean, it could change a game like you have today where you can or just any other game where you're trailing and trying to keep it close. Those 5, 6, 7, 8 guys in your bullpen being that much better means that much more.
The Mariners bullpen's all healthy. It's one of the best in baseball, but that bullpen has been very, very taxed with injuries. Yeah. Logan Evans is getting here. Like it's been reported, right? We don't know the exact date, like you said, but he's coming. Gregory Santos, if all keeps going well, he's gonna be back. They keep saying at some point in July, maybe it'll be right around the All-Star break, but he's on the right track. Very, very much on the right track. Yeah, if you're back end of the bullpen or even just look at the whole bullpen picture as a whole, you got Munoz, Santos, Logan Evans, Gabe Spire, Taylor Saucedo, Ryan Stanek, and then a couple of these others to mix in. That's a very, very good bullpen.
Yeah. Okay, want to mix in a few more here before we wrap up. Again, thank
Yeah.
you guys so much for tuning in. Marine Lair Podcast, Sunday Night live at 7 o'clock Pacific on both YouTube and Instagram. Really want us to answer questions. Send us a super chat on YouTube. We'd be happy to answer it. Follow us on all of our socials at Marine Layer Pod, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, posting content, all Mariners every single day. Appreciate every single one of you for tuning in and sending us these great questions. Let's get a couple good ones here before we wrap up. Let's see what we got here.
A
So
lot of
how
trade
about this?
stuff.
How about this? I like this from JJMTZ509 on Instagram regarding the Mariners catching position. How do you think they should approach this catching position going forward? Because here's what I can see with my eyes right now. So we have the roster right now where the Mariners have two catchers on their roster. They have Cal Raleigh, starter, everyday catcher, and then you have Mitch Garver, who is the backup catcher, but also the team's starting DH primarily.
Mhm.
So, how do you manage that? Do you add a backup? How soon do you add a backup catcher? And how do you mix these guys going forward? Because what we see with Cal is I just get the feeling he's hurt. His offense has plummeted recently. And I'm going to take a guess it's because he's getting beat up behind the plate because that's usually how it is for Cal. He is an absolute warrior back there. And even if he's got like a torn ligament or something, he's usually playing through it. And it'll affect his offensive performance as we're seeing right now. The Mariners could really, really use Cal Raleigh, the 2022 version of Cal Raleigh's bat, but we're not seeing it right now. And they need to find a way to mix him and Garver in behind the plate, but probably also for the benefit of both of them health wise I think they're probably going to need another catcher.
The fact Sebby Zavala cleared waivers helps because you do have a third. Now, I'm not saying he is the level of a Danny Jansen, someone who we've talked about could make sense in a trade for the Mariners if you were gonna go get a backup another catcher, but I don't know. Look, I like the idea, but roster shuffling gets hard if that's the case because then you have 3 I mean, they had 3 catchers on the roster most of the year, so you could do it, but I also just wonder if there could be higher priorities. Again, I like the idea, and maybe that is what they go do, but I think their priority here is to go and get a real outfield bat, somebody that's gonna hit first. Maybe it's the secondary option. And again, like, it makes sense. You wanna keep Garver healthy, but it's tough to say. You know what? Let's throw this out there at this point because we're on the topic of another catcher. Is there any chance we see Harry Ford before the end of the year? Especially
It
especially if
is it
Cal's now banged up.
it has never made more sense than it does right now.
Yeah.
So how would you balance this though? How do we balance this? Because you want Harry to get at bats. It doesn't do him much good to come up here and play once a week. So how would you balance this? Are you moving Garver back to full-time DH if this is the case?
Yeah, you'd probably have to, and honestly, you'd probably have to have Harry start playing another position some of the time, left field or something like that, if you want him to get full at bats, because he can still catch, but he can't play every day with Cal on the roster, and obviously, they're not trading Cal, they're not doing anything like that. It's just about if you call up Harry Ford, how do you get him the playing time?
And what's a good way to get a right-handed outfield bat, Lyle? It's to put your super athletic right-handed hitting catcher in the outfield. Could be like that's essentially a souped up version of we have pizza at home. Mariners have a right-handed hitting top 30 prospect who could play
Yeah,
outfield. Probably in the system. Is it the perfect solution? No, but the more I'm talking through this right now, I don't know if I seriously don't think it's made more sense. If you were to seriously think that Harry Ford is ready this year, then to bring him up right now
right,
or in a month, because I don't think the catching situation changes in a month. But if you were to try and fit him on this roster and get him reps, now would be the time.
right. Yeah, I think it makes a bunch of sense, especially if Cal's banged up. So, I wouldn't bank on that, but it's probably more plausible than it has been before. So, yeah, I would I bet you the Mariners are at least thinking about it, I'll tell you that. Are they guaranteed to do it? No, but I bet you they're thinking about it. So,
So do we think the bat like so I don't think right now his bat is totally ready. He was
mhm,
scorching hot there for a while. The bat's cooled down a little bit. His slugging percentage at double A right now is under 400. He's got a 125 WRC plus. He's never been the biggest power guy in the world, but as he matures a little bit, the power is expected to come. But a 125 WRC plus at double A is good, but not unbelievable. So this could also convince yourself that he probably, if he's going to move up a level, it would be to AAA instead. So this is a
right.
really fascinating question. This might be a podcast subject. So
Yeah, it could be. I've got one fun one to wrap it up if we wanna do something like that for a final question.
let's do it.
It's a little off bit it's a little off the topic. Actually, 1.5 more. Gmo just said something else. Uh, Lyle, can we see your shirt? I've been trying to figure out who it is. Oh, yeah, it's Jared. I wore this today. Shout out to my guy because he's been hitting really well in Atlanta, and I'm happy for him. So I figured I'd wear it on the live stream. Maybe people couldn't see who it was, but yes, this is a Jared Kelnick shirt. Can you see the last name? There we go. Kelnick, my guy. Anyway,
Hit a leadoff homer today.
yes, he did. He's hitting well. I'm happy for him. Could we get into a whole conversation about how Mariners could probably still trying to use him? We could, but let's not do that because I know we're trying to wrap this thing up. And I mean, well, okay, I won't get down the rabbit hole. So let me just find the final question. It's from Noah, who's a friend of mine, and he says, "Who you got winning the Stanley Cup? Who you got winning the College World Series?" I'll start. College World Series, I will go Tennessee because it's going to the all or nothing final game 3 tomorrow night, and it'll be close. I'm shocked A&M's gotten this far without Braden Montgomery. I guess they're just a really good roster, but they're here and they've got a chance to win it, but I'm gonna take Tennessee to win it. They are the number 1 overall seed. And then Stanley Cup, I'll take you know why I'm gonna take the Oilers? I could stand in unison with friend of the pod, Mike Ryan Ruiz, and take the Panthers, but I don't know how many people on here follow much Barstool stuff, but Nikki Smokes has basically been, if people know who that is, has been basically forced to go to every uh Panthers Stanley Cup final game. And they lose every game he attends. And he's forced to go to game 7 here tomorrow too. So for that reason, I'm gonna take the Oilers.
So I'm gonna say the Oilers because even though I'm not a huge believer in momentum, like I want to see history. So I want to see a blown 3-0 lead. And, you know, America, Lyle, has dominated the Stanley Cup for so long. Canada has not had a Stanley Cup since you and I were born, and well before that, too. So I think it's time Canada gets a little taste of the Stanley Cup back before us here in America hog it for the next 30 years again. So we can give them their token there, and Connor McDavid's pretty good. So I
Yeah,
think
well,
that'll be pretty cool.
I was gonna say we might not know much hockey, but the Oilers do have 2 of the best players in the world in
Yeah.
McDavid and Draisaitl. So, yeah.
Our hockey friend Josh says no, but that's fine. It doesn't matter. Thank you for contributing, Josh. We love you as always. And then the College World Series, man, I gotta go A&M, man. First of all, they didn't trail in Omaha until today. Didn't trail in Omaha until today. But even without Braden Montgomery, the dude who's playing in front of him, behind him, sorry, Jeff Kent's kid, in like the 6 games they played since has driven in 12 runs. Like that's pretty good. And I'll
Yeah.
say these two teams like hit the crap out of the baseball. Like when we're talking about modern day SEC baseball, like these are the teams. Like
Mhm.
they look like quasi big league teams. Ton of power, a ton of velocity, and 2 pretty darn good head coaches, I will say, for each of those programs. Former TCU head coach Jim Schlossnagle at Texas A&M, and then Tony Vitello, who I know is, I wouldn't say controversial, but his team certainly plays a brand of baseball that I'll say respectively, the older set doesn't like. They bat flip a lot.
And
They're
I love.
brash, aggressive, like etc. Everything there, and it's a ton of fun. But A&M has just looked good throughout this entire tournament. So I got to go with them. Even though they've gotten some injuries, the fans are as dedicated as any fan base in major college sports. And I will say, even though I'm a West Coast guy and I think it would be cooler if the West Coast didn't sort of fall off the map collegiately the last 5-7 years nationally. Texas A&M hasn't won a national championships in any major men's sport since 1939. So I would say it's probably about time.
Again, it's just so crazy they're doing all of this without Braden Montgomery. It's not just an injury they had, like, that's their best player, AKA a guy who could be a top 5 draft pick. He'll probably go at absolute lowest, what, 10? That's an absolute dude they do not have in their lineup, yet they're still right on the doorstep of a national title. It's pretty wild.
Right. Yeah, right. But it'll be a good game 3 tomorrow. It'll be good. I
Mhm.
don't think there'll be any future M's in the game, or at least not the blue chip guys. I
No.
don't think Christian Moore is going to be available. Brain Montgomery's not going to be available. I don't think any of their pitchers slot into where the Mariners are picking. Not in the
No.
first round. Later
Yeah,
rounds could be a different story.
and Chase Burns is no longer a Tennessee Volunteer, so yeah, and he
No,
wouldn't fall to the Mariners pick anyway, so.
no, he wouldn't. Yeah, I'm trying to think of anyone else, but they're like they could draft another one of those guys in the other rounds, but the Lau and I are pretty focused on the first round right now, and then go wherever they need to go after. I want to just give one shout out. Colby Jack on YouTube says TJ's stash equals Clark Gable 2024. Who's Clark Gable?
Your answer's as good as mine.
Clark. Let's see this before we sign off. I need an answer to this. I don't really model it after anybody. Let's see. Eh. Oh, is this the dude who played Frankenstein?
Oh, I didn't
Yeah,
look it up.
this looks like it.
I'll take your
Yeah.
word for it.
Let's see. Looks like Frankenstein. I don't know. We'll go with that. I like the mustache. Like I guess. I get. I'll end this on an I guess on that comp.
Alright.
I guess. So that'll be a good conclusion note. Next time I talk to all of you guys, I'll be back on the West Coast, which will be nice because it is 10 o'clock right now. Usually these don't go this late, but I'm here in the Central Time Zone in Nashville, enjoying it here on vacation. But we'll be back in the saddle. We'll be back in grind mode this upcoming week. So it'll be good. And hopefully for my sake and Lyle's sake and for everyone else's sake, Mariners play better this week as well. So that'll be nice. Thank you again, everyone, so much for tuning in. Marine Layer Podcast, Sunday Night live here on Instagram and on YouTube every single Sunday night, 7 o'clock Pacific time. Come hang out. Come ask the best questions in the world, and let's talk some Mariners. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you again so much. We'll see you then.